All right, everybody. Welcome to the 4th and 26 Philly Sports Podcast. I'm Dirty Mike, and we got Cobbs Creek Beef with us tonight. How you doing tonight, Beef?
Going on, guys? What it do? What it do? I'm just gonna make sure you're there. I want to touch. I want to come out and feel you guys. I want to touch you.
I see you. Yeah, that's good. We got you right in the
You
center there
see me?
now. Uh, man, it's and
How ironic that today is actually the 26th.
today is actually, I believe, the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death as well.
Yeah, I was just about to mention. Let's get a shout out to the Mamba man and his little daughter before we get started in 2023.
Yeah, definitely rest
Shout
in
out, 3 years,
peace.
kid.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, 3 years already. It's just going so fast. And I was just, I was
I even feel this last week is going fast. We played the Giants. That feels like it was 3 weeks ago already.
It does. We knocked them into 3 weeks ago. We don't have to spend too much time going back over that. Everybody knows what that was. Just a complete destruction and just completely overmatched. They had a good season for, the talent level that they have, but, definitely they were overmatched. And it was good to see us, really get back into the win column there with Jalen and really put together a solid game. I mean, that was the way that they came out and just stepped on their necks pretty much right away. I mean, that's what we got to look to do this week. Get out to a lead, I think.
They did exactly what the game plan should have been. They took off early, never looked back, and then the defense feasted upon them in the second half. Let the offense run out the clock. You had Gainwell get a piece, Scott get a piece, the boss, Giant Killer.
He
Everybody
is.
got a little piece of that pie, and that's what you need to do. That's probably going to be the same formula for the Niners.
Yeah, I like that they came out and they actually established a run early. Because too many of those games that were kind of sloppy at the very end of the year. I know they were dealing with injuries, backups, stuff like that, but I just felt like they needed to run the ball a little bit more and to establish the run, and I felt like the last couple of weeks they kind of came out really pass happy, and it was really good to see them get that run game going because everything goes off of the run game. Once they have to commit to, putting those extra people in the box, then that opens everything up for, Slim Reaper and, A.J. Brown and Dallas Goddard over the middle. And it's amazing to watch, when they get going, honestly. They're like an avalanche, it seems like. Once they really get going, they seem like they're almost unstoppable.
Small bit of defensive news since we're talking about defense. I just saw that Dan Quinn is going to stay with the Cowboys. So guess what? That's good for us because he sucks.
Yeah, let's keep
this will be great.
let's keep the Cowboys intact as much as possible. They're the one team I want to keep intact.
Same thing for the Giants. Same thing for the Commanders. Let's just stay on top of the NFC East as long as we can, Foods.
Yeah, I think this could be the changing of the guard, like we were talking about earlier in the week, where this could really be the upcoming part where we start to take control of the division for a few years, like we were in the early 2000s with McNabb and those teams, where we were winning it 4 or 5 years in a row.
Agreed, 100%. I mean, like you said, this is going to be the playoffs is a whole different animal anyway. Because I mean, you got to think of this was our first game of the playoffs that Jalen Hurts has won at all.
Yeah.
So now he's got a taste for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's you need
I
that.
think they lost against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he hadn't had a playoff win until that, so you can't anoint him yet. He still has to put in the work. And that was a big step,
Exactly.
and
But that was good.
it was really good. He played a great game. He stayed within himself, and it hardly looked like he broke a sweat, Foods, honestly. I mean, I can't remember him getting hit. Do you remember him really? Like, I know he ran for. There was one play in the first quarter where he ran like an RPO, like kind of in the red zone, I think, and he got maybe like 8 or 9 yards. But 2 or 3 people hit him, tried to bring him down, and like once he got right up from that, I really had to sense it. He's definitely okay. From the injury, he may be sore a little bit, adrenaline goes, but. He's definitely not holding back for sure.
Yeah, I didn't see too much
No.
that would make me concerned, but there were a couple good slides. I think he played better, smarter with his head because he knew he had to preserve his shoulder. He's smarter than poor Mahomes because, oh my God, that ankle injury. I mean, could Andy Reid teams get any more cursed with ankle injured, quarterbacks?
I know.
They just Donovan. It just what's it, Alex Smith? Jesus,
I don't feel too bad. He got his Super Bowl.
it's ridiculous.
I don't feel too bad, but
I know it's just so damn funny that that they always get that all Andy Reid teams always get the quarterback always gets it. I digress, but I'm just thinking that it's funny. But yeah, other than a few slides, one or two bumps, I didn't see Jalen Hurts take too many hits, and I was happy with that.
No, I was very happy with that too, to get out of that game unscathed. And we got one more, and then we got a couple more weeks off if we can get through it. So how are you feeling this week? What's your gut telling you? Like, what's your gut reaction to this game coming up?
Well, I obviously I think what they spread was what 2.5. They're at minus 2.5.
Yeah,
that would probably go to 3. I'm thinking, but Foods, if they can get to him early, just get to Purdy early, because I honestly think that his pressure in our stadium is going to be what is the key to turnovers, obviously. Obviously. And the fact that we'll be able to get in his face all day. I don't know if you saw any of what BG had said to Daniel Jones before they started the divisional game. He's like, all day I'm going to be chipping you. All day I'm in your face. I'm going to be at your throwing arm. It's going to get in his head. And I think that's what it's finally going to make Purdy crack, and they're not going to get that 13th win, Foods.
No, they've stayed within themselves. They're a system. I'm not going to take anything away from what Brock Purdy's done. He stayed within himself. He hasn't made mistakes. And that's something that can turn an average quarterback into a, good quarterback, not making mistakes, honestly. You look at Josh Allen, he's got all the talent in the world, but, he makes a lot of bad decisions. He fumbles a lot, through a lot of interceptions. And, Brock's really stayed within himself, but, they really haven't asked him to do a whole lot. They've kind of, stayed within their system, established a run, build it off of the defense, keep it to third and short where, he can make those plays, those third and shorts. But, if we're in his face getting negative plays, especially on first and second down, to where, we're forcing him in the 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 15s, it's going to be a real long day for him for sure, because he is a rookie quarterback. And that's something the Eagles teams, I feel like, have always kind of prided themselves on, not letting a rookie quarterback beat them.
Yeah, 3rd and long. That's a good point, Foods. I agree with that 100%. 3rd and long. He's got great weapons. Purdy does. I mean, let's talk about all the weapons that he has. They got Kittles. They got Debo. You got Ayuk. There's plenty of things they got going for Purdy that can work in those short yardage situations that you were mentioning. So yeah, I agree. But I think our defense, like you said, is going to be able to infiltrate, get in those gaps, clog up the run, make him run, and force him to just really try to throw the ball. If we get an early lead, that'll be even better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you saw the injury report or not, but I don't know if it's just a little gamesmanship kind of trying to maybe throw us off. But, a lot of the players are actually injured right now. McCaffrey's on the injury report. He's not practicing all week. Elijah Mitchell has a groin injury. He hasn't been practicing all week. And I'm trying to remember who the third person is. Someone else is injured on their team, one of their skilled players. But, they kind of went out here saying that today. But I kind of have a feeling that might have just been some gamesmanship to kind of throw us off whether they're going to play or not. But we all know they're playing. None of those guys are going to miss anything this game.
Absolutely. I saw the one about the McCaffrey's camp. McCaffrey?
Yeah. McCaffrey.
I saw that one. So, yeah, maybe it was, maybe it is obviously a legit report. So it's all good. But I really think that I can see this one actually being a higher scoring game, tighter, until one team takes off. Maybe 20-21 till it's going to be like 23 and then 30. And then 23-33. And I think by that point, it's just going to be all over.
How many points do you think we're going to need to
Yeah.
score to win this game?
I definitely think we're going to need more than, what's been the average so far in the playoffs? 24 points, 27 points.
Yeah.
I think we'll need more than that. I really do.
Yeah.
But I think we can do it. I think we can score over 30 points like we did last week. If we play the same game and don't take anything for granted.
Yeah, I see this being a lower scoring game. I could see this being maybe a 17-10
Okay.
type of game, 17-14 type of game. I think if we get to 24 points, that's kind of where I've been all week. I've been thinking about it. I think if we can get to 24 points, I think our defense can do enough to get the win. And we got to shut down the run early because I think they're going to look to, establish the run early because that's what they do. Brock's not going to come out, gunslinging, I don't think, against this team. I think, if we can establish, our defense early, I think we have a good shot to, get them in those third and longs.
Do you think they'll have? Do you think this game will reflect more on like how they played last week against the Cowboys? That kind of score, that kind of grinded out, kind of maybe like only 1 or 2 touchdowns. It'll be like a Robbie Gould, Jake Elliott kind of game. Is that what you're saying?
The Dallas Cowboys have just fucked me up all year so much. I have no idea who they were or what they were or how good they were, to be honest with you. I don't know if they did with last week against them to only hold them to what did they score, 20 points, something like that?
Yeah, it was nothing. It was like 12-19.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm kind of thinking. I like to think that we have a better defense than the Cowboys do. I know they have a lot of big players on defense, but I'd like to think we're a better, more consistent defense all the way from front to the back because I don't think their secondary was too great, the Cowboys this year, and I know they had a lot of injuries in it. So I like to think we're a better defense than them. So I'd like to think we could put in a similar performance, holding them to, 20 points or less. So, but like I said, I have no idea who the Cowboys were all this year. So, I don't know if they looked like they played decent last week on defense, but I think we can repeat that, performance that they did against them because it was definitely a defensive game. For sure.
I also want to bring this into note that this is our last game in our stadium this season. So that's it. I mean, this is it. Unless they count how they like to go down to what the heck is it called? Where the Spectrum used to be, the
Xfinity.
Oh god, the name escapes me at the moment. It's Ready Live. That's the one. But that doesn't really count because that's just kind of like a nice little party area. But this is the last home game in the city. You know what I mean? That's going to be up to 11. Try to get up to 11, Foods.
It's going to be insane. I almost fell into a fire pit at Xfinity.
Really? What happened? Just a quick one. Give me a 30-second anecdote.
Okay, 30-second anecdote. I go down there with Hamill and some friends. I drank about 12 Miller Lights, and then I went over to Victory, and I had a giant boot, about 36 ounces of Victory. I think it was Hop Devil. I had the boot of Hop Devil after I had all that, and I was sloppy, and I tripped, and I fell into the fire pit, and thank God I didn't catch. And this was after I rode I think I rode a bull, too. I think I rode the bull that night.
Too damn much, Foods. I can totally see you doing that. But yeah, anyway, so you got to keep that in mind. Those fans are going to be going ape shit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we tailgate harder than anybody. So it's going to be wild. And I actually saw something, I forget who on the 49ers said it, but I think they said that their crowd is louder than ours or something like that. And it's stupid, get into what crowd's louder or not. But we got the best fans in the NFL, and we're going to show it on Sunday for sure.
Absolutely. That's so awesome. I like actually getting the early game because that means the Niners have to travel across the country.
Right.
We get the extra day rest.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps. And I just think that it's going to be, if we get on them early, I honestly do. I think that might be enough to sever their morale. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, players don't talk about this while they're playing, but, they definitely talk about it after. I've heard, there's a big advantage of sleeping in your own bed. honestly, and not having to travel cross country and be in hotels and stuff like that. And the fact that the Eagles can sleep in their own beds the entire week, wake up, go down to the stadium, not have to get on planes and travel and all that's a huge advantage. And that's why we needed that last game of the year. And I think we had a shot to make it as far as we did if we had to play all the games on the road, if we didn't get that number one seed. But this is why we needed that number one seed for this.
I agree. Just like Rocky said, it's like 5 minutes from where I live, so I'm really excited about that,
Oh, my God. Yeah, I'll tell you, being out of state now, that's the one thing that I really do miss about living in the Philly area. The camaraderie about, everywhere you go, you see people with the jerseys on. You can just, have a conversation with a complete stranger about the game, A couple other places that I've lived, I lived
all the time. You're absolutely right.
Everywhere you go, I was in Florida for 13, 14 years, and there was more other teams fans than Bucks fans down there. They had a good fan base of people who were into the Bucks, but it was just so few and far between. But being in the Philly area where you have 5 million people surrounding the area, all Philly sports fans, it's a huge advantage, and it's a great atmosphere to grow up in and to live in for sure. And I miss that, I got to tell you.
Sorry, Foods. That's why we do these podcasts. Get a little piece of home, and it's great that technology can link us all together. It doesn't matter how far away we are.
Yeah, I know. If 15 years ago you would have said we would be able to do something like this, split screen like this, seeing each other just talking about a Philly sports podcast, it's great. Technology's really come such a long way to be able to help out with that. It's awesome. But I did want to bring up. I don't think anybody's going to mention it down here, but I'm not too far from Charlotte. So the Panthers just hired Frank Reich today. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, they was talking about it on the radio earlier, so I'm like, all right, that's sweet. It's a shame that it didn't work out. Where it was with Indianapolis, right?
Yeah.
The Colts, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a shame it didn't work out for them, but maybe he'll do better over in Carolina. I mean, it's they've been to the Super Bowl once. Unfortunately, they didn't win it, but maybe Frank Reich can put them over the hump.
Well, it's a shit division, so I mean, it's not going to take much. They had a shot this year.
Obviously. And again, something we talked about last week with the Andy Reid and the Doug Peterson coaching trees. It's nice,
Yeah, I was hoping, I'm glad he got another head coaching job, because a lot of times after, you lose your first head coaching position, you get fired, within, a few years, like he was, within like 3-4 years, you oftentimes have to take a step back and, be an offensive coordinator, or, and then, maybe you get another shot down the road. But there was a little part of me that was kind of hoping when, our coordinators move on after this year and, get some head coaching jobs, that Frank Reich could have maybe came back and been our offensive coordinator or something. I was maybe selfishly hoping for that a little bit, but I don't know what relationship him and Sirianni have.
Foods, you're the best. This is why we love you, Doc. Yeah, that's why we love you. You're a homer, just like I am. I love the hotel. Now, I got to say that ship is sailed, and I'll tell you why. Because Howie Roseman, as the executive of the year, doesn't need to look back. My man looks forward, Foods.
He really does.
You know what I'm saying? That's why the rear view mirror is this small and the windshield this big.
That's a good point. I was glad to see he got the executive of the year, as well he should. He put together a great team, and he's been a different person since the whole Chip Kelly debacle. And I'll tell you, man, when they brought him back, I couldn't believe it, Foods. I was so upset when they brought Howie Roseman back. I thought,
really?
Oh, okay. Yeah. When they brought him back, I was like, he had his shot. He just didn't get it done. He's a different person now than he was then. What he's done. I mean, what he's done has been nothing short of just tremendous. The teams that he's put together and the deals.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I agree.
But now it gets hard because he's got to pay his quarterback. We got lucky to get Jalen Hurts, for as cheap as we had him, being a second-round pick. When you can hit on a quarterback and not have to pay, those big bucks right away, you can really, improve your team. And, it showed this year to where, we were able to get, some of those players that we might not have been able to get if we were paying Hurts, $50 million a year. Would we have been able to get Bradbury or C.J. Gardner-Johnson, if we were, because you saw it with the Chiefs, when they had to pay Patrick Mahomes, they had to make some sacrifices and get rid of Tyreek.
Yep. I was just about to say. And going back to the way that Howie manages the salary cap, we were talking about it last week being one of his strengths. He also got us that extra draft pick, so we're top 10. Let's just hope he doesn't mess up the pick. It's a decent pick. I like the top 10, but I mean it's very crucial that he fills that right piece, and I think that we have a couple good pieces that a couple of the openings that we need to fill, and I think he'll do the right thing this year, especially if we can go all the way.
Right. And I think obviously we always need to retool, and you always have to get backups in there or, players for the future. I think we hit pay dirt with Reed Blankenship. I like that now we don't have to go out and draft his position, and he'll be projected to start next year because he's played at a high level in some big games already this year. He's played well beyond, his rookie, status that he's had. So I think we hit a home run with him for sure, and that's one less need that we're going to have to fill in the postseason. I'm sorry, in the offseason. But, we're looking good on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously we're going to have – I don't think we're going to keep Booby. I think Miles Sanders is gone, unfortunately. He picked this year to have his career year on his salary year. So I think he's kind of priced himself out. He's probably going to want, bigger bucks next year, which, I don't blame him. He's got to take care of himself and his family. He's had a big year, and I think we're gonna lose him. So I definitely think we're gonna have to replace him. But on the defensive side of the ball is where we're really gonna have to hit some home runs with these draft picks. And we don't have a lot in the draft. I think we only have 5 or 6 picks total. I know most of them are very high though.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 points on what you were saying. I agree about Kenny. I call him Kenny Blankenship. My man is a beast out there. He covers everything.
He does.
He don't play. Yeah, he's great. I'm glad they'll probably move on from people like Josiah Scott, those kinds of people. You know what I mean? Like you to get those sorts of that sort of depth filled. So I'm okay with that. If Sanders walks, if we sign him up. Either way, I don't mind, but we were talking about it last time. Running backs aren't at a premium.
Yeah, absolutely not.
They really aren't. They're kind of recyclable, sort of replaceable. Even if we go all the way, we got many of them. We got a good amount. So you're right. It's going to be up to the cap issues that we're going to have to deal with in the future.
I got a name for you. How would you feel about coming off of an injury on a 1-year prove-it deal, bringing Tony Pollard in from the Cowboys?
Oh, I felt so bad.
I did too.
When he went down. That would be interesting because I feel for certain players that get injured. Like you felt for Dak when he got injured. You feel for Pollard, but if the corpse of Jerry Jones wants to get rid of him. It's always a consideration.
Well, he's a free agent. This was his last season under contract. And
is he? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's why I felt bad for him. And this is, I'm going to go on record, and officially right now, I don't think he's a Cowboy anymore. So I can say this. I'll never feel sorry for a Dallas Cowboy, but I felt bad for him because he kind of came out of the shadow of Zeke, and then he surpassed him, last year. And he had a monster year this year, and he was setting himself up for his first big payday. And to get injured like that right at the very end, halfway through your last game before you get a monster contract. And he would have got a big contract. Somebody would have paid him big money. It wouldn't have been us, but somebody would have paid him big money. And he lost that. Nobody's going to give him a 5-year deal, 4-year deal coming off of a broken leg. They're just not. He's going to have to take a 1-year prove-it deal somewhere. Yeah,
yes, that's what I'm about to say. Certainly not going to get that big payday. They took the bread right out of Jimmy's mouth. It's so awful.
Yeah, I did feel bad. Not I felt bad as a human being for him for that. As soon as that happened, I was like, damn, that kind of sucks for him because he wasn't going to be a Cowboy next year. They're still paying Zeke next year too, like $15 million. They're not going to pay Tony Pollard $15 million either. That Zeke contract, my God, I've never seen anybody fall off faster getting their money.
Oh yeah, he was. I'm going to have to say that I'm again, like you were saying, I'm not too sympathetic. They want to pay crazy money to people and then have them be injured and risk it all for for your future. Well, like I said, let the other teams in the NFC do that, and we'll just reap the benefits of their missteps.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think the Cowboys need to? I've been hearing some talk, even chatter about maybe them bringing in Tom Brady, which is just stupid and ridiculous. But do you think the Cowboys? Do you think the Cowboys need to move on from Dak? I'm not talking about as an Eagles fan where we hope they just keep plodding along. If you were the corpse of Jerry Jones, would you move on from him, or do you think he can win a championship or get them deep?
The Cowboy Crypt Keeper food. You're talking about Jerry Jones, probably.
You heard that name here first. The Cowboy Crypt Keeper is what we're calling Jerry Jones.
This is actually you heard 4th and 26. I think that he because Jerry, oh man, Dak Prescott, all right. This is because I was thinking about this in depth. All right, food. So it's like this. I mean, I don't think that they'll, because they keep getting consistent 12, 13 win seasons.
Yeah.
Under McCarthy, under Prescott, and that gives them the best chance to win the division, best chance to go furthest in the playoffs. So he's got to think like that because he also wants to think like a businessman too. He's the CEO. He wants to make the money, and he also wants the championships. He wants the glory and the money. So he's been sacrificing the glory for a long time for that money. And I think that it's just going to come down to what he wants more. I mean, if he wants to keep winning 12, 13 win seasons, stick with Dak. If he's going to want to win the big one, he might have to try something new. He really might.
Yeah, I agree. But, I heard Ryan Clark on ESPN talking about it. He's getting to the point where who knows how much time he has left. He's an old man. He really is. And, does he have the time to go through another rebuild, draft a quarterback, maybe hope you hit on a free agent or something, or just ride what you have right now and just try to make the best of it? I mean, I don't think Dak's trash by any means. I also don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. He's that middle of the pack quarterback that, has flashes of greatness, which he does. I mean, you saw it the first playoff game. That was probably the best game of his career. He has flashes of greatness, but, is it sustainable for a whole season? And that's what, I hear Shannon Sharp talk about it all the time, the skip. You've had a 7-year sample size. It's not like, it's been a couple years and let's see how much better he gets. A 7-year sample size is long enough to see who somebody is.
Agreed. 7 years is a ton. And at this point, how many weapons can you put around him? I know that the guy gets hurt. He misses his fair share of games each season.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think I saw a stat earlier this week. He's now 2-4. And his divisional round it's like the same record as Tony Romo. Just can't get past that divisional round. It's 2-4 in the playoffs.
I think Tony Romo's a great comp for Dak Prescott. I think he's a great comp for him. He's the reincarnate of Tony Romo. Good quarterback.
Literally.
Can win you games.
Identically.
Yeah. He can win you games. He'll get you there. Maybe can win a division, but he's not going to win the whole thing for you. And that's just who he is. And, we obviously hold Nick Foles in very high regard on this show. And he's a similar type of quarterback. I felt like, flashes of greatness. He could, keep it together for a half a year or even have, a mostly great year. But that's the difference between, the great quarterbacks and the backup quarterbacks, or like the middle of the pack quarterbacks, sustaining it year after year after year, game after game, consistency. And that's what we've seen from Jalen Hurts all this year, taking that second to third year leap with consistency.
Agreed. And I think a lot of times you look at those quarterbacks and you think, yeah, they were great. They got hurt. Why did they get hurt? Maybe it was their offensive line. O-lines like Tom Brady's line, like, say, Troy Aikman's line, those lines were walls. Foods gave my man's time to throw, check downs, be able to pick apart defenses. And I think the people like Romo and, Foles, they had good O-lines, but they just got hurt. They couldn't sustain that type of success. Whereas other people had just a slightly better or way better O-lines were able to sustain that success longer.
Yeah.
So I think your O-line is a big part in how you are able to your longevity. Let's put it that way.
So let's shift gears a little bit to award season. Do they really mean anything? Not really, but it's always good to get some recognition for jobs well done. How do you feel the award season shook out as far as like coach of the year or comeback player of the year? Do you feel like Brandon Graham was a big snub?
I think we got snubbed a lot, but I'll tell you what, those awards mean a lot to the people, the coaches who get fired maybe a few years later, and now it's on their resume. So it certainly doesn't hurt that Howie Roseman's been executive of the year twice now, I think. Yeah. So that's nice. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But then you get people like Sirianni he wasn't even part of the 3 finalists.
Yeah.
How? What?
You know what? I'm okay. Okay, I'm okay with Sirianni not being in it, and I'll tell you why. It seems like Coach of the Year it's not like the MVP award where it usually goes to the best player or, the best coach on the best team. It seems like the Coach of the Year, especially within the last 10 years, seems to go to the player who did the most with the least. We were a playoff team last year. We were projected to, be a playoff team, probably this year as well. So, did he overachieve a little bit this year with us? Maybe. I mean, I don't think anybody saw us being as good as we were, but he had a lot to work with, and it seems like that kind of goes against him in the voting. Should it? Probably not. He should have been a finalist, 100% for sure. But some of those other guys that were nominated, certainly did a lot with not a whole lot. So, I mean, I was okay with Sirianni maybe not doing it. And plus, I think he would have been the only one nominated that doesn't call his own plays either. So, I think that might I don't know how. I don't think that really factors into it, but it just kind of seems like who overachieves, in other words, are the ones that get nominated for Coach of the Year. I think McDermott, that was ridiculous. I mean, everybody knew the Bills were going to be in it, so the fact that he got a finalist for it, I think that was shit. I like McDermott, but I don't think he should have been a finalist over Nick.
Yeah, I'm more upset that he wasn't one of the finalists. They had going to the playoffs last year. You're right. You're correct. But they only went with 9 wins. They had 14 wins. They were projected to have 9.5 this year, and anything over. But they had 5 games over.
That's
almost.
A lot.
That's just crazy. That's just nuts. You know what I mean? Not even to be a finalist. Yeah.
He was, I think he was in the top 5, and then when they narrowed it down to the top 3, they left him off. So they did have him in the top 5, but they definitely left him off. But I definitely felt a big snub with Brandon Graham. I think he should have. I think he should have been a finalist for sure. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's the one we brought up earlier. After that injury he had last year and the way he came back this year, I think the only thing that might have hurt him the most is he got swallowed up. His achievements were swallowed up by everyone else in that defense. So it might have looked a little bit more
Like a
that
product
he
of a
didn't stand
system.
out so much. But
Yeah.
I just don't know how. Again, not even a finalist. What?
Yeah, I think Hassan Reddick got. I never hear anybody talking about Hassan Reddick on a national level. The year that he's had, it's just. He's been amazing. It's been one of the best defensive years I can remember in a long time from an Eagles player. And I don't think he even was in the top five, even when they narrowed it down to the top three, which I definitely think Reddick got snubbed as well. What a great signing that was.
Definitely. But you know what, Foods?
What?
They could use that as fuel, as a in their fire to win this weekend. Show everyone that you can take that, your voting and your ballots and stick it, and we'll see you in Arizona in 2 weeks. Foods. You know what I'm saying?
So you're calling an Eagles win this Sunday?
I'm saying. I think. What I'm saying is you can pretty much book your flight to Arizona. You might as well start looking at hotels now, Foods.
I love it. I love the confidence, and I can't wait till we can talk on Sunday night and start to make those plans. The first couple weeks of our show here is obviously it's right in the middle of Eagles season, so it's been very Eagles heavy. I like to switch some gears here and talk about the Sixers a little bit. I get to catch games, I get to see highlights, everything like that, but, I don't get to watch them, on national TV quite as much as, you would get to see them on Comcast every night. So I like to hear your thoughts about the Sixers. They started off the year very mediocre, and actually they were downright terrible at the beginning of the year, but, I mean, man, they've really turned it around. I like to hear your thoughts.
Foods, they reminded me of the old Heat team from like 15 years ago. The way they're able to overcome point deficits. Let me get this straight. Deficits that shouldn't happen. Don't get me wrong here. But they're able to overcome those point deficits late in the quarter, late in the game. They're able to be able to rotate well. They are able to crash. You get good offensive boards from players you wouldn't expect. And I have to say that Doc Rivers is doing a lot better since the start of this year. Now, they got their All-Star game in a few weeks and the All-Star break and all that. So they really need to make a little run here now that they're coming back home from that West Coast trip.
Yeah, they're currently the number 2 seed. They've really climbed up the rankings for sure. So they definitely got to keep the pressure on, until the break comes up for sure. But there's a part of me that really
they jumped the Bucks.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be honest with you though. There's a part of me that feels like this is their last year of their window. It honestly,
you hear that a lot, and you can't blame them. You can't blame such a statement. It's a fair statement.
Yeah, because I mean, if we lose again in the first or second round, if we lose again in the first or the second round, don't make the conference championship or the finals, I can't picture them paying Harden $50-60 million a year. Honestly, at his age, has he had a great year this year? He's been fantastic this year, I think.
He looks Foods. He looks great. It's so true that you just really don't want to have to pay him that much. But man, he looks like he could earn it. He's so old though.
I know. Like, are you going to pay for him with the hopes that maybe you can keep him and Embiid together, and Maxey keeps emerging as a superstar, and maybe you get another 2-year window? But then you're completely fucked because you have him under contract for 4 more years after that at $60 million a year at like 37, 38, 39 years old. He definitely seemed like he took a step back last year, but he really, I think he kind of got his footing back with us now this year. It's hard when people get traded, the first year they're with a team. It takes time, especially in basketball. Football, you got a big team. You can kind of, blend into a system. Basketball, you only got 5 guys out there, so you got to you got to gel.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that with the team that we have, a mixture of the young and a mixture of some of the old, they can absolutely do some damage, but it is a smaller window than it was, say, 2 years ago when they were playing, Atlanta and then all those things that happened with Toronto the year before. It's definitely heartbreaking. It takes a piece of your soul, but I have to say they are looking great right now. Shake Milton's looking great. They got some of the other young guys that are looking good. Guys coming off the bench. And, I mean, no one's too injured right now. They got, everyone's working and firing all cylinders, and that's what you want to see.
How do you feel about Maxey coming off the bench, given that spark? What do you think about him coming off the bench?
I think that they use him perfectly in, like, late game situations where he can come out and maybe help take away fouls, draw fouls from people who are in trouble. It definitely helps take some pressure off the inside game because his shooting is impeccable. He can shoot from anywhere, Foods. Yeah. And then, of course, if he misses, you got Milton, you got Embiid. They can get your boards for you. They box out. They do the hard work. You've seen Embiid flopping all over the place.
I'll tell you. Yeah, that every time I see Embiid on the ground, I'm just like, no, stay up. You're bigger and stronger. He is the most dominant post player in the league, by far. There's nobody that can dominate like he can. And the fact that he's on the ground as much as he is just... It's a play style. It is, because obviously I never played at a very high level, but I remember I used to get in trouble in youth league playing for the Fallcroft Boys Club because every time I would shoot the ball, I would fade back and fall on the ground like trying to draw a foul, and they were like, "Why are you on the ground? You're a foot taller than everybody else on the court." And that's just what he reminds me of when I used to get yelled at for that.
And he does get fouled a lot because he can beat you inside or out, which is great. If he's covered in, if he's double teamed on the inside, just throw, get him right back out, and then redistribute. You can get him right back out to the key or outside the line, whatever you want. He hits a 3-pointer, anything.
That's a part of Embiid's game. He has improved a lot, not just his conditioning, because. Embiid used to be, I feel like he was the type of player to where he was dominant until he got tired. And then you would really see a fall off on him when he kind of got fatigued and tired. Because his first couple of years, his first 4 or 5 years, he was overweight. He really was. And he's in phenomenal shape now, and you can really see it late in the games where everyone else is fatiguing and getting tired, and he's still as dominant as he was at the beginning of the game, which makes him even more dominant when everyone else gets tired. So that's a part of his game that I feel like has really improved. And another knock on him used to be when he would be double teamed, he would make a lot of poor decisions and a lot of turnovers. And I feel like he's gotten a lot better with that part of his game.
Yeah, truth. I don't know how much you saw of the game they just played when they played against Simmons and Kyrie and all that.
Yeah, I was watching that game last night.
They consistently go into the buck 20s, almost buck 30s sometimes. I mean, that just tells you how well A, Doc is rotating them, and B, how much their conditioning is up. If they're able to score, over 100 to up to 250 points total a night with the other team, they got to go back and forth.
Yeah, last night I think that was 270 plus points last night. I think we scored 139. I mean, it's a different game. It's just a different game than it used to be. I mean, you remember those games growing up where scores would be in the 80s. I mean,
yeah, that's like a college game now.
Right. Teams have that almost at halftime now. So it's just definitely a different game now, and I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to answer me honestly. Do you feel like the process was a failure?
It's a good question. I'm going to say, barring any, I'm going to have to say I think it was. I really do.
Me too.
I don't see it being successful if they can't get out of the second round, regardless of the coach, regardless, you know what I'm saying, regardless of the front office. You know, I don't think they're doing a terrible job, but you know, successful. I don't think so.
No.
I have to say no. Short answer, no.
Yeah, I agree because they were kind of stuck in that purgatory, which is just the absolute worst place to be when you're in the NBA. When you're like the number 8 seed, 7 seed every single year and getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs, you're never getting a lottery pick, you're never getting a good draft pick. You have like almost no chance to improve your team. And, you know, they were stuck in that before they completely blew the team up. I think Brett Brown was a okay coach, but I also think that no professional coach should have been subjected to the amount of the lack of talent that man had to endure for as long as he had to endure the so-called process. I mean, that was pathetic, Foods. I mean, you remember that was like 3-4 years in a row of 9, 10, 11, 12 wins. I mean, my God, that was just, it was a train wreck.
It was embarrassing. I'd like to give a little shout out to AI. I don't know if you saw how much you watched, but he was actually at that game the other day. So, well, shout out to my man. He still looked pretty good, and I like to think that if you asked him the same question about the process, he'd probably say no. He would probably say, candidly, he would probably say, I don't think they are successful.
I don't think the process of the process was a failure because ultimately we got top 3 picks 4 years in a row. What we did with those picks was a colossal failure. I mean,
no good results.
No
exactly.
good results. I mean, Jahlil Okafor, just a complete bust and a waste. I'll have to look up some of those picks. You know, Ben Simmons at the time it looked like a good pick, but there were certainly a lot of other players in that draft that I would rather have right now.
And you can see a lot of those players went on to other teams and did well. I mean, Markelle Fultz is in Orlando. He's playing with, what's his face? He's with Suggs and the Wagners, playing with Gary Harris, Isaac. He's with Mamba, Bol. They're looking good because they got a good team that fits with them. But, I mean, I don't think we had good fits at that time, you know?
Yeah, and, you know, that's up to the talent scouts to evaluate that. Fultz was very young and he was very immature. You know, he wasn't a mature player. He had the one good season at Washington and we drafted him. And obviously, you know, we're always going to talk about what would have been if we would have had Tatum and Embiid together. If we would have had Tatum...
Right, exactly.
That would have been the combination.
That was always my other example.
Yeah. Now, I think if we would have had Tatum, Embiid, and Ben Simmons on top of it, then I think we would have had something to where we could have been competing for a championship for 8 to 10 years, honestly. But to miss completely on 2 number 1 picks within a couple years of each other, it just completely destroyed us.
Yeah, it's a shame because I think if we could have gotten through to the finals and even into the NBA finals, the teams in the West don't really scare me that much. We just came back kicking the shit out of, you know, the Kings and the Lakers and all that. So, I mean, I know we got to go play the Nuggets now and they're, you know, number 1 in the West. I get all that, but like, I wasn't scared of anybody out there.
Yeah, I'm looking up the Sixers' first round draft picks. Are you able to see on the screen? Is it showing up?
Not quite. Yeah, no, nothing yet. But right. I'll riff until you find it. Yeah.
Here we go.
So, but hey, anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like, we definitely could have taken care of business if we could have just gotten there, for God's sakes. I started to see something now.
All right. Here we go here. So let's take a look at some of our picks over the last we'll go back to kind of around like We could start with Embiid because that's really when
What did it-
everything kind of began. So Embiid was all the
I
way
was
back.
going to say like 5-6 years sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean this Jahlil Okafor one. I think that was the number 2 or number 3. Yeah, that was the number 3 pick right here. Jahlil Okafor in that draft. Do you recall in that draft who came out as a great player in that draft?
What year was that?
That was
that
2015. That was a 2015 draft.
2015? Hmm. God, who came out in 2015?
Let's take a look here.
I honestly,
All right, here.
yeah, I'm not really. Good Lord, God, that's like 8 years ago now.
Yeah,
Would that be like Wiggins, or was that even before him?
all right. So Karl Anthony Towns went number 1. D'Angelo Russell number 2. Porzingis was in that draft. Devin Booker was in that draft.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a. At that time though, I didn't understand necessarily why we got another big right after. Well, no, I do, because Embiid was hurt the first 2.5 years, remember? So we had to get somebody out there. So I kind of understand why they didn't draft a point guard or anything. But Devin Booker sitting there at number 13, and he went to Kentucky, so it's not like he was in like a smaller school where you didn't get a whole lot of footage or know much about him. Everybody knew he was going to be pretty good. But just looking through this draft, this wasn't a very good draft, Foods. There's some. Devin Booker was definitely the.
Yeah, no, I was going to say nothing really stuck out. Nothing really stuck out to me.
Yeah, nothing really in that draft. So could we have done better? Maybe, but I'm not going to necessarily kill them for that draft because that wasn't too great a one. But I never saw anything from Okafor that made me think that he was going to be a good player to be drafted that high. But let's take a look at the Ben Simmons draft here, because obviously Donovan Mitchell was like the big rival of that draft. You got Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown.
I remember that draft night so well. You remember that draft night? All the pageantry?
Yeah. Chris Dunn, Buddy Hield, Jamal Murray, Thon Maker. Sabonis was a good player too. I would have rather had Sabonis over Ben Simmons. This wasn't a tremendous draft either.
There was a lot of talk about Buddy Hield.
Yeah, Buddy Hield really. There was a lot of talk of him, especially early in his career, really being a shooter. But he's really fallen off the last few years for sure. That was the year we got Pascal Siakam was in that draft too. Oh, yeah. We had the number 26 pick. We picked Furkan Korkmaz at the end of the first round with Pascal Siakam still on the board. So
Corky? That was the year we got Corky?
Yeah. And DeJounte Murray, who's a superstar now on the Spurs. He's a superstar in the league now. He's just a budding superstar for sure. So Pascal Siakam and DeJounte Murray were both available at the end of the first round when we picked Korkmaz. And, Korkmaz hasn't been a total bust. He's been a solid, role player. But, it comes down to talent, honestly, and talent evaluation. And I really feel like the Sixers really have struggled with that since the process, quote-unquote, began.
Yeah, I can't deny that. I mean, it's a shame because again, they did so well during the regular season, going on that one run where they won almost what was it, 50, 60 games or something like that.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, but
then it just blow it in the second round.
Yeah, but I've killed them tonight. I have killed the Sixers talent evaluators tonight, but I will give them some credit where credit's due. Sometimes you also hit with things that you didn't necessarily think you were going to hit with, and Maxey was one of those players. They picked him at number 21, and he's turned out to really. And this was just, yeah, he's still such a young player, and he's ascending every year. So that was a great pick, that Maxey one. But I think if there's anything that made the process a failure, it was Markelle Fultz plus a first rounder over Jason Tatum. That just completely killed us, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they, got 100%. No one ever said that they were geniuses, but I guess the way that that they've played so far this year, paid their players. I mean, everyone's gotten, a decent. I have to say it's been a decent treatment of the players. No one is complaining. You don't hear any of the chatter from the past where you're hearing leaks about Twitter messages. God, what the heck were from the Colangelo brother, or not father and son?
Yeah.
The Jerry. You're not hearing conspiracies and all those sorts of things that distract you from the year, which is nice.
I got a question for you. If Embiid goes out and wins the MVP award this year, and the Sixers get bounced out in the first round or second round, would you trade Embiid for 4 first-round draft picks?
It's a good question. Probably not. I don't think I would. I think I would still hold on to him. I really do.
Yeah?
4, though, that's a lot. If you would have said 3, I would have said definitely no. But 4...
4 first-round picks over the.
I don't know. Maybe it depends on what draft year. I got to look at more of the college to see what the crop looks like.
Well, starting in the next draft, I think this is the first draft now where you're going to be able to come back in from high school again. So you don't have to go to college and do the one and done anymore. So you're going to start getting high school players coming out, and I think that might be LeBron's kids first or second year too. So when he's going to be eligible for it, so I think he'll probably end up doing that. So I missed the college game. Do you remember the college game growing up? And for some reason, the last player that I really remember playing all 4 years that was a real big star. Remember Tim Duncan, at Wake Forest. You found out about him freshman year, and then sophomore year he's a beast, and then it just keeps progressing up and up. But you got to know the college players. Going to school for all 4 years, and there's a part of me that kind of misses that a little bit with the college game.
I think that and the college coaches used to be a little bit more fiery in their temper and in their characteristics. You had all the crazy coaches were in college.
Yeah, Bobby Knight used to choke motherfuckers. I mean,
Knight used to do would throw chairs at everybody. So it's just Bobby Knight was a nut. It all depends. I think everyone had a different place in time, and I agree that college. Those to be in college is a whole different experience in itself. But then to play as you're going to college,
yeah,
it's just oh my God, Thank God bless anyone who could stay in college that long and not be tempted by, the lure of the siren song that is the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, especially you got to get your money when you can get it. A lot of people have been pissed about that. I can't think of too many people right offhand, but I'm sure there have been some players that, have been forced to go to college as an NBA route and, got injured. And now all of a sudden, instead of being a first-round pick, maybe you go undrafted or you're a second-round pick and you just really can't catch on or have that career that you thought you were going to. So, I don't think it's fair to limit somebody and say that you can't, come in the league and you have to go to college. I think that was a load of shit. But
yeah, I agree because you got, certainly you got your diamonds in the rough, but I mean, coming out being 19 years old, and I mean, you're so rough around the edges, like you say, coming out of high school, 18, 19, shit like that. so much room for improvement, but the raw talent, oh my God, you're like Bo Cruz in that Adam Sandler movie that came out last year.
Oh, speaking of an Adam Sandler movie that came out in the last couple of years, have you seen Uncut Gems yet?
Unbelievable. Great
Such a
movie.
great movie. That is such a
But that,
gem of a movie that not many people know about that movie. Like I talk to people sometimes about it and they'll look at me, they're like, "What? I never heard of that." That movie was so great.
that Kevin Garnett, he was in it.
Yes. KG was in it and he was great. As far as like sports movies go, that not that I don't know. It's up there with Rounders with me, which I need to watch. I haven't watched Rounders in a little bit. I gotta confess, I don't think I've seen Rounders in about a year or two, and that's about the longest I think I've ever gone without seeing Rounders.
You're due, Foods. You do.
I just want to play. Can't play anywhere here, Foods. There's nowhere I can play down here. It's terrible.
Yeah, you just got online down there, I bet.
Can't. I can't
Can
do.
you get online?
No, I can't. You can't do nothing. I can't do DraftKings. You can't do. I can't do any type of gambling within the state. The only gambling that is legal in the state is the lottery. There's no. You can't even play bingo.
Wow.
Can't.
Jesus. That's
Yes.
crazy.
Yes. It is so conservative down here and just such a stronghold of Republican down here. It's so conservative. And the schools are just South Carolina ranks in like the bottom three of the country with education, and they're underfunded and they just don't. They're simple solutions. Gambling and profits from that really can go a long way to helping the infrastructure and the roads and all that. And they're just so conservative down here. There's nowhere in the state you can play. It's all illegal. I can't even play online.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, oh.
Yeah, so count yourself blessed that you could just walk right down to Harrah's and place a bet.
That's crazy because this Pennsylvania was, founded by Puritans and Quakers and shit. So it's like,
Now, I got a Harrah's casino about 3 hours from me in Cherokee in North Carolina. And,
right.
North Carolina is not as strict. They do medical marijuana, they allow gambling, they're not as strict. But, South Carolina is. We haven't elected a Democratic governor, I think, in 32 years down here. So it's strict down here for sure. So that's a real big adjustment, especially moving from like Florida and Pennsylvania, where you could play anywhere. I do kind of miss that until the bad beats
Well,
start flowing in.
right. You got the South Carolina was the first state to secede from the Union, food. So
This is true. Um,
you are deep in territory.
have you played cards anytime lately?
Nah, not really. It's funny, but a buddy of mine, shout out to my man Matt, if he watches this later, we were talking about like DraftKings and FanDuel, and you want to talk about gambling? This kid is awesome. He does like 17 parlays and prop bets like it's nothing, and he wins. He does very well. My man probably makes, I don't want to say too, throw him under the bus too much, but he's definitely in the green, and there's something to it.
Yeah, that's it's definitely something, and I definitely miss the prop bets. They were always so much fun. I used to love fucking around with some prop bets and a couple good parlays on Sundays to keep it interesting. So hopefully one day it starts to kind of loosen up a little bit down here, but I don't know how much longer I'm going to be staying in this state, to be honest with you.
You come with me. We'll go to Colorado. We'll blow this podcast up, Foods.
Yeah, Colorado was definitely on the radar, and we moved up from Florida, and I wish we went halfway. I wish we would have went all the way and got out to Colorado, but hey, Riley's going to be in ninth grade next year, so he's only got 4 more years left. I mean, shit, man, that's when you and me met. Kid, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that the other night. I'm just like, all right, Riley's going to be 14 next month, and that's when we met. I was 14 years old when we met.
That's right. That's right. 4th and 26. We've been friends forever. And if you stay with us, you'll be our friend forever, too.
Absolutely. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about tonight? Any closing thoughts on? We could circle it back to the Birds. Any closing thoughts for the game this weekend? Give me some of your keys.
Well, I tell you what, Foods. I know again. It's a little bit of a digress, but again, it follows my theme of making sure that everybody pays attention to what's going on in the field. Because last week, I noticed that there were some plays and some things that got let go against the 49ers and Cowboys game. Some ineligible men downfield. Some other things that I saw that could have been called, face mask, hold. I want the refs to let the teams play.
Right.
This it's a championship game. Let it all out on the field. But I really want them to watch to make sure that it's a good technical game. I don't want people leaning and crossing over neutral zone infractions that aren't called. I don't want to see like Goddard getting ripped down by his shoulder on a face mask not called. Pay attention, protect the quarterbacks, let them play. But I just want to see a good game where both teams leave it all on the field. And if that's the case, I really think that we'll come up with the win, maybe 27-20, something like that, 24-20. I think it'll be a little closer, but I think we'll cover.
All right. So the last thing I'm going to ask you then is complete this sentence. If the Eagles do blank on Sunday, they will win.
If the Eagles use Hurts's legs as much as his arms, I think they'll score enough points to win this game handily, going away to the Super Bowl.
All right, so that's a good offensive one. And what about on defense? What do you think is the key on defense? Because I think that's what it's really going to come down to. I think we are going to put up some points, but what do we got to do to shut them down?
Just a pressure cooker of the game on Brock, and they got to punch. I think they really need to punch those receivers. Early 5-yard bumps. Don't let them stay on their routes. Be able to hit if the ball is bobbled like Kittle did last week. Don't be afraid to hit that mother effer. Give him a bop, knock that son of a bitch off his line, and break up the ball.
Yeah.
Don't let them play their game, Foods. Play our game.
Right. I think the key to this game is keeping Kittle from just sitting down in our zone and just catching balls in the empty parts of the zone. But that kind of goes back to what you said, playing physical and aggressive, hitting them off the line, not letting them get a clean break off the line, throwing them off into a different direction. If they can do that, I think they are going to come out with the win. I think it's going to be 24-17 Eagles.
Yeah, get those hands up. Clog the lanes,
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't get to them, get your hands up. Knock it down. And
exactly.
And
you're right. And I think that our field goal, just one last thing, I think between Elliott and what is it, Robbie Gould, I think we have if it needs to come down to something overtime, I sure hope it doesn't, but I got faith. I think that Elliott in his home stadium can deliver us something that would be able to, be the icing on the cake, put us over that finish line if we need it.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe Robbie Gould has never missed a kick in the playoffs. I believe
he doesn't have to. I'm not saying yes to. He doesn't have to. He can make the field goals, but I think if Elliott makes more, and I think if we could just keep, the damage to a minimum, and maybe like just a touchdown or two tops, maybe a field goal, like you said, 17.
Right.
That would be fine. I would be okay with that. They make their money, but we just make more. Just don't drop the church's money, Foods.
Don't. And you can't let the dead get in. Never
don't ever let them in.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me again this week on the 4th and 26 Philly Sports Podcast. We're trying to gain some momentum here, so if you guys liked what you heard, definitely make sure you subscribe. We're going to be doing this every week. It's obviously pretty Eagles heavy right now, being we're in the thick of the playoff run, but we're going to be covering all Philly sports here all year round, so we ain't going nowhere, and we can't wait to have you guys on the ride with us. Thanks again. Let me get an Eagles chant from you there, Foods.
Smash that like button. EAGLES.
Eagles. Let's go. And next time that we talk, hopefully we will punch our ticket to Arizona. And I can't wait till Sunday. We've got a little under 72 hours to go. We'll know. And let's do it.
NFC champs right there, baby. Fly, Eagles, fly. All right, Doc.
All right. Sounds good. I'll holler at you again soon. Talk to you soon.
You got it, buddy. 4th and 26. Go.